The fatal mistake that wastes your first 3 months. The biggest reason most gardens fail before they even start is trying to plant everything at once without understanding that different vegetables have different speeds. Which means some crops are ready to eat in 30 days, while others take 120 days, and if you only plant the slow ones, you're waiting for months with nothing to harvest and you give up before anything actually grows. Here's the real secret. A sustainable garden that produces food in 90 days isn't about planting one type of vegetable and hoping for the best. It's about layering 3 types of crops together so that something is ready to harvest every single week from day 30 onwards, creating continuous production instead of feast or famine. The 3-speed system is what makes this work because it combines fast crops that mature in 3 to 4 weeks, medium crops that take 6 to 8 weeks, and slow crops that need the full 12 weeks planted together on the same day, so they're all growing at once but finishing at different times. Picture this. Week 1, you plant radishes that take 25 days, lettuce that takes 45 days, and tomatoes that take 75 days, all in the same garden bed. By week 4, you're harvesting fresh radishes. By week 7, you're cutting lettuce every day. And by week 11, you have ripe tomatoes, which means you've had continuous harvest for 8 weeks straight from a single planting session. Month 1, the foundation that determines everything. The first 30 days are where sustainable gardens are either built or broken, because this is when you create the conditions that will either feed your plants or starve them for the next 3 months. And most people skip this step entirely, wondering why their garden produces nothing. Soil preparation is not optional. It's the difference between plants that struggle and barely produce versus plants that explode with growth and bury you in vegetables. And the good news is that building great soil takes 1 weekend of work that pays dividends for the entire season. Start by marking out beds that are 3 feet wide and as long as you want, which is narrow enough that you can reach the center from either side without stepping on the soil. Never step on your growing area, because every footstep compacts the soil and makes it harder for roots to grow, which directly reduces your harvest. Now comes the part that changes everything. Spread a 4 to 6-inch layer of compost over your entire bed. Not a thin sprinkling, but a thick blanket that covers the ground completely. Mix this compost into the top 6 to 8 inches of soil using a garden fork, breaking up clumps and creating a loose, fluffy texture that roots can penetrate easily. The fast crops that deliver results in 3 to 4 weeks. Week 1 of your sustainable garden starts with planting the fast crops that give you immediate wins and keep you motivated, because nothing builds confidence like eating fresh vegetables from your own garden just 1 month after planting. Radishes are the fastest crop you can grow, ready to harvest in just 25 to 30 days from seed. Sow them 1/2 inch deep and 1 inch apart in rows. Water them every few days and pull them as soon as they reach full size, because if you wait too long, they turn woody and bitter. Lettuce can be ready in 30 days if you harvest it as baby greens, or 45 to 50 days for full heads. Sow seeds thinly in rows, barely covering them with soil, because lettuce needs light to sprout. Keep the soil moist, and when seedlings are 1 inch tall, thin them to 4 to 6 inches apart. Spinach grows incredibly fast in spring and fall, ready for first harvest in just 3 to 4 weeks. Plant seeds 1/2 inch deep and 2 inches apart, then thin to 4 inches. Harvest by cutting the outer leaves while leaving the center growing point intact, which means one planting gives you multiple harvests over 6 to 8 weeks. Green onions from seed are ready to pull in 30 to 40 days. Plant them 1 inch deep and 1 inch apart in rows, and pull them as soon as they're thick enough to use, which is usually pencil thickness or slightly larger. The medium crops that fill your harvest between weeks 5 and 8 while your fast crops are growing. You're also planting medium speed vegetables on the same day that will keep production going after the radishes and baby greens are finished. Bush beans are ready 50 to 60 days after planting and produce heavily for 3 to 4 weeks. They are giving you pounds of beans from a small space. Plant seeds 1 inch deep and 3 inches apart after the soil warms up. They need full sun and consistent water, but otherwise take care of themselves. Zucchini and summer squash start producing 50 to 60 days after planting and keep going until frost if you keep picking. Plant 2 to 3 plants per person because they're incredibly productive, spacing them to feet apart in rich soil with full sun. Carrots take 60 to 75 days, but can be pulled earlier as baby carrots if you cut and wait. Sow seeds thinly in rows, then thin seedlings to 1 inch apart. Keep the soil evenly moist while they're germinating because if the surface dries out, the seeds die. Beets are ready in 50 to 60 days, and you get 2 crops from 1 plant because the leaves are edible as cooking greens while the roots are developing. Plant seeds 1 inch apart and thin to 3 inches, eating the thinnings as baby beet grains. Cucumbers start producing around day 55 to 60 and keep fruiting for weeks if you pick them regularly. Plant 3 to 4 plants and give them something to climb, like a trellis or fence, because vertical growing saves space and makes picking easier. The slow crops that anchor your 3-month system, the foundation of your sustainable garden, is the crops that take the full 90 days, because these are typically the plants that produce the most food and keep giving for months after that initial harvest. Tomatoes need 70 to 85 days from transplant to first harvest, which means you're planting them as seedlings, not seeds, to save time. Buy healthy transplants from a garden center, plant them deep so that half the stem is buried, and stake them immediately. Peppers take 70 to 80 days from transplant and keep producing until frost. Plant them after the soil is fairly warm, space them 18 inches apart, and give them consistent water. They're slower than tomatoes, but just as productive if you're patient. Cabbage family plants like broccoli and cauliflower need 70 to 90 days, but produce large heads that feed multiple meals. Start them from transplants, space them 18 inches apart in rich soil, and keep them well watered because any stress causes the plants to bolt or form tiny heads. Potatoes take the full 90 to 100 days, but produce 5 to 10 pounds per plant if grown correctly. Plant seed potatoes 4 inches deep and 12 inches apart, then hill soil around the stems as they grow, which creates more space for tubers to form. How these 3 speeds create continuous harvest. Here's where the system reveals its power. Because you planted fast, medium, and slow crops on the same day, your harvest schedule looks like this. Week 4, pulling radishes and cutting baby lettuce. Week 5 to 6, harvesting spinach, green onions, and the last of the fast greens. Week 7 to 8, first beans, baby carrots, and beet greens while fast crops are being replanted. Week 9 to 10, summer squash, cucumbers, full-size carrots, and beets coming in waves. Week 11 to 12, first tomatoes and peppers while beans and squash are still producing. Week 13 onwards, full production from tomatoes, peppers, and any replanted fast crops, plus potato harvest. You're not waiting 3 months for food. You're eating from your garden starting at week 4, and every week after that has something new coming ready, which is what makes this system sustainable both financially and motivationally. The watering system that saves your garden. More gardens fail from watering mistakes than any other because too much water drowns roots and too little water stresses plants. And most people have no idea which problem they have until everything is dead. Here's what actually works. Deep watering twice a week is better than shallow watering every day because deep watering trains roots to grow down where moisture is stable, while shallow watering keeps roots at the surface where they're vulnerable to heat and drying. The finger test tells you when to water. Stick your finger 2 inches into the soil. If it's dry at that depth, water. If it's still moist, wait. This simple test prevents both overwatering and underwatering. Mulching is the secret that cuts your watering in half. Spread 2 to 3 inches of straw, shredded leaves, or grass clippings around your plants, which keeps the soil moist by blocking evaporation and keeps weeds from growing. Natural pest control without chemicals. Sustainable gardens work with nature instead of fighting it, which means managing pests without poisons that kill beneficial insects and contaminate your food. Hand picking works for large pests like caterpillars and beetles. Check plants every few days, drop pests into soapy water, and you'll keep populations under control without any sprays. Row covers are lightweight fabric that lets light and water through but keeps insects out. Drape them over young plants and secure the edges with soil, giving plants 3 to 4 weeks of protected growth when they're most vulnerable. Strong plants resist pests naturally, which is why soil fertility, consistent watering, and proper spacing matter more than any spray you could buy. Healthy plants in good soil have natural defenses that weak, stressed plants lack. The replanting strategy that extends production, the 3-month system, does end at day 90 because the real power comes from replanting fast crops every 3 to 4 weeks, which keeps your garden producing continuously instead of having one harvest and then nothing. As soon as you pull the first radishes in week 4, immediately replant that space with more radishes or plant lettuce, giving you another harvest in 3 to 4 weeks. When the first lettuce is finished in week 7, replant that section with beans or more greens depending on the season. This rolling replant system means that after the initial 90-day period, you have something being harvested and something being planted every single week, creating perpetual production from the same space. The soil feeding system that gets better every year. Sustainable gardens improve over time instead of depleting like chemical gardens because you're constantly adding organic matter that feeds the living soil instead of just the plants. Compost everything: kitchen scraps, garden waste, fallen leaves, grass clippings all go into a pile where they decompose into black gold that transforms your soil. Start a pile in a corner of your yard, keep it moist, turn it occasionally, and in 3 to 6 months you have finished compost to spread on beds. Crop rotation prevents pest buildup and balances soil nutrients by moving plant families to different beds each year. Divide your garden into 3 sections and rotate between leafy greens, fruiting crops like tomatoes and beans, and root vegetables like carrots and beets.